everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we're taking a look at a game that was played on a map that I really enjoy. It receives a lot of mostly fair criticisms, but it's a map that I really enjoy. A map with probably one of the best background arts as well, and if you're a fan of the channel, then you might already know where I'm going with this. Today, our blue Cortex Commander, spawning on the front lines here, is going to be playing on Ascendancy. And I just gotta take a second, like, look at this beautiful background art. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for good old-fashioned background canopies, but I definitely appreciate that one. Anyways, the blue commander today, spotting as a Cortex commander right up here on the front lines. It's gonna be none other than Chopface, with a very action-packed name. Definitely a name that invokes like action and maybe like karate a little bit. Yeah, Chopface here. The blue Cortex commander, hailing at 25 open skill, gonna be showing us what they've got. Spawning as the red commander on the northern side of Ascendancy here. It's gonna be none other than Tim Hooligan. Also with the cool name, like Tim Hooligan definitely sounds very whimsical, like sort of the Mask vibes I'm getting from Tim Hooligan here. And apparently gonna be playing as an Armada commander, going into some of those good old-fashioned Armada bots. Cool stuff. I always like when we see an Armada top commander versus a Cortex top commander. For some reason, it feels like that's just the right way to stretch a game of Beyond All Reason, or to align a game of Beyond All Reason. I don't know. Maybe I've watched a couple too many games of Beyond All Reason. One thing or another that I can tell you, though, is that this map is usually pretty interesting. There's a couple of lanes in this map, and this is one of the biggest criticisms about this map. There are a couple of lanes in this map that tend to have more sway on the outcome of the game than any other. Obviously, the most prominent of which being this gigantic pathway up on the northern hill. It's a gigantic height difference between the rest of the map. You can see the difference between this and the lowest point on the map is tremendous. And what that means is actually that long-range plasma cannons perked on this hill are extremely, extremely long-ranged plasma cannons. They can fire out across basically the entire map, meaning that whoever manages to capture this suddenly has the potential to harass literally every position on the field. And that can be a very, very powerful advantage going into the late game. So it's one of those things to keep an eye out on later into the match, especially on Ascendancy, and especially since I might have been warned a little bit in the submission of this replay over on the Discord, the Brightworks Discord channel, that apparently some plasma cannon shenanigans go on this game. So I'm maybe giving you a little bit of a spoiler teaser right there. Meanwhile, in the backline, as we currently speak, the red commander has already gone ahead and gotten a whole bunch of ticks directly into who is that? Pandiocas? The lime green commander's base. Wind turbines, constructor, metal extractors, all the rest of it goes down. Luckily, those wind turbines are highly explosive, so they kill most of the ticks, but one of them does still remain up and standing, and will continue to be a threat here to the green commander. Alright, nicely done. I also see a scout plane coming across. The tan commander doing a great job of scouting out over here. Large fish doing a great job. Scouts out the majority of the blue bases here. We'll actually switch to their POV, and you can see, yeah, scouting out the cyan green, powder blue green, and blue bases. The purple base down on the southern side as well. That sort of lets us figure out where Masker and it looks like Size are going to be playing. Cool. Very, very cool here from the tank commander. An excellent scout ability, or an excellent scouting mission right there. Revealing a lot of the blue team and definitely giving the red team an opportunity to align themselves with where the skill of the blue team is going to be. One of those long-term skills to learn in Beyond All Reason is where exactly should you position your force, your experience, I should say. Oftentimes you want to line it up. Masker going into a couple of hovercraft here on the southern side. Those are the good old-fashioned Armada hovercraft. They are desperately lacking a lightning hovercraft. This is something that's been on my mind recently. After seeing the shotgun hover tank for Legion, after the halberd hover tank that's been fabulous for Cortex for so long, I feel like Armada deserves a lightning hover tank. Yeah, make it a 600 metal lightning hover tank that fires away. Maybe a dual lightning cannon. That's not something we really have. The Thor kind of has a dual lightning cannon, but I don't think there's anything so far yet that has a dual lightning cannon. That'd be pretty neat to see. Anywho, my speculations aside, front line's looking quite nice right here for the red team. We do have a little bit of a cheeky air shenanigan here. Looks like the powder blue commander Harvman has gone ahead and set up a radar tower over on the hill right here. Kind of an interesting choice, but I don't mind it actually. That's a really useful radar tower. Yeah, I mean, it reveals such a gigantic portion of the backline right here for the red team. I don't suppose that's a bad idea whatsoever. Yeah, okay. Uh-oh, red team just lost somebody. Looks like the air player has left the game, or the frontliner. Not entirely sure which one. Either way, one of them is out of the match here. Hopefully they'll be rejoining. Hopefully it's just a disconnect. How's this Northern Highland going? Looks like the Grunt versus Grunt battle has begun. LLTs set up all along the way for size, so at the very least pushing backwards into that lab is going to be really, really painful. But there's more forces on the front line, right? More units versus more statics. Means that size is very defensively secure right now. However, those units can be very threatening to a commander. Not quite at the critical mass, though, that... excuse me. Not quite at the critical mass, though, that I would say size is really in any considerable danger. Just has to be a little bit careful not to get surrounded completely. But the LLT here will be more than enough. There we go. More than enough to blast down these grunts. And just like that, the front line is secured right here for this powder, or for the, powder green, the seafoam green commander. Gotta think of a better word for this. Well, let's have a contest in the comment section for a better word to describe this. Seafoam gets a little bit nasally every once in a while.
Battle started.
I think I'm having a little bit of a nose cold as well here because I can definitely feel my congestion, and I hope you guys don't have to hear that as well. I know it's probably a little bit jarring to hear my voice all of a sudden be all high and nasally. Ahem. Trying to clear it as much as I can, but there's only so much I can do. I have to mute the microphone every time. Ugh. If you tuned in for the live stream the last Saturday where we did the 1v1 Pro League, that was a lot of fun as well. Basically, every 30 seconds I was pausing to blow my nose just like this. Buying me a precious few seconds of clarity. But it is only a temporary fix. I need to get me some NyQuil in me. Tim Hooligan setting up some LLTs to defend here as well as against a massive tick run by. Okay, not bad. Whole bunch of blitzes heading over as well. Very cool. I like it. Blitzes fast enough and with enough damage power to do serious damage if they get into the backline. Like, this many is more than enough of a threat to take down the laboratory. I'm glad that we're responding to this appropriately here as the Green Commander sends some forces forward. The ticks are called on as well, and eventually it's all cleaned up here. Luckily, the Cyan Commander remains up and standing, if not just slightly overbuilt on build power here. Looks like a good old-fashioned proper Cortex engagement right here for the Pink Commander. It's an engagement like this where I think heavy laser tower creep really shines. This is a perfect situation where you know your opponent is just going to be going into more and more of these T1 bots. It's a really excellent opportunity to just go ahead and go into a heavy laser tower. Hey, look at that. I swear I haven't watched this replay before. I just think it's a genuinely good move here. The heavy laser tower is going to come up and running. I would usually recommend building a build turret, at least one build turret somewhere in the backline, protected by your troops and your statics. And then using that to help assist build the heavy laser tower. And what you do is you leapfrog those forward, so you use the construction tower to deconstruct the heavy laser tower when you jump forward another step. It lets you basically spend the metal forwards rather than just spending it and leaving it there on the ground. Either way here, the Pink Commander needs to spend metal one way or another. This is, this is way, way, way too much metal in the bank right here, so I'm glad to see anything on the front lines. There we go, though. Heavy laser tower now firing away at the forces in Seafoam Green here. Size forces now crumbling. And I think build power, heavy laser tower, build power, heavy laser tower, and eventually this is going to be a fabulous little push right here. The other accompaniment that you need to build is the radar tower, and I see we already have one right here, so that's fabulous. Making sure that that's up and running to actually grant this the vision that it needs to fire away. Super, super important. Tim Hooligan is doing phenomenally here. Yeah, Red Commander doing a wonderful job of pushing forward, and at this point we're just spamming Centurion. Lovely stuff. Yeah, just moving Centurion across the field as many and as quickly as possible, and then switching into maces to provide a little bit of extra firepower, of course, at a reasonably consistent speed across this army. We've got the slow-moving Centurion paired up with the slow-moving maces. You wouldn't believe it, that army ends up walking together really nicely. Yeah. All things must come to an end, though, and Tim Hooligan does lose the two metal extractors over here that were producing a juicy piece of the economy. Definitely helping boost the eco here against the Green Commander, who is desperately low in HP at 24%. Meanwhile, big old hovercraft raid over here as well, taking advantage of the fact that these are semi-amphibious and can float atop the water surface in order to approach from different and inconvenient angles right now for the Brown Commander, who is also switching into amphibious, or into hovercraft, rather. Okay, no reason to throw these away to the LLT, but how much can I really complain about what is otherwise a very successful attack right here? I'd love to see this LLT go down. Okay, there we go. Hovercraft drawing the forces backwards and popping the LLT means the medium tanks can now roll through, and suddenly the Brown Commander learns exactly why you don't go for two, especially a vehicle lab and a hovercraft lab. Yeah, very expensive. Where's the constructor? There we go. Take a look at this here. 900 metal for the hovercraft lab, 740 metal for the vehicle lab. So combined total of something like 1,600 metal. Very, very expensive to go into both of those. You would, at the very least, have to eat up one of the labs if you're going to go into the hovercraft lab later on. And this is a terrible situation. Yeah, suddenly the red team is in a really, really dire state on the southern side. We, have a... Okay. Didn't notice that we had a T2 lab more than halfway done right here. Makes sense why there's such shallow production in the backline right here. Banshees and Ticks trying to take down medium tanks. It works, kind of. Surprisingly, if we eat up this T1 lab, I think this actually finishes up relatively quickly here. 10 minutes into the game is not the quickest T2 at all, but of course, considering that there's units on the field as well, that's not bad. Resbot braving the rocket storm, but not successfully, as the maces move forward. And what will ultimately be a fairly efficient trade, but not one that's microed appropriately here. I feel like choosing individual units here to blast down one by one is probably the right way to do this. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't really matter. The thugs are going to trade nicely against rocket bots basically no matter what. They won't, however, trade nicely against rocket bots and maces. The combined efforts here of the cyan and the green player ensure that all of this reclaim has now been generously donated by the red commander. Yeah, that is a gargantuan 3,280-ish metal available now to Pandiokas, the green commander, and probably also the cyan commander here, Vexy, going to split that metal up evenly, or something like that. Easily a T2 transition right there. Maroon commander a little bit late to the bit, jumping on top with some medium tanks here, but it's kind of a lot too late. The engagement has already been fought, and you can see all those corpses on the floor. If these tanks had ran by while the forces were thin and had gone into the green base, shut down production, all that jazz, this would have looked a lot better, but unfortunately not the world that we live in. We live in the bronze leagues, the bronze and silver leagues, the metal leagues, where that is ultimately not the case. Poldarn. Now beset upon by a whole bunch of these blitzes swarming forward to try and take out that... to run right past the purple commander here on the southern side. Looks like a decent engagement over here for the orange and yellow forces, but it will be the blue army that actually ends up standing strong here. There is a gauntlet apparently firing away as well, so that's always nice to see. As soon as these units step within range, that gauntlet will start firing away here. The Ticks providing a lot of vision, of course, and Arcazar getting ready to reclaim as much of this as possible, using the maces as a pushing force to get control of this gigantic reclamation field here. The blue commander trying to reclaim as much of this as possible as well. Always a bit of a tricky situation though, right? You have to use the units to gain the reclaim, so you have to spend less than you reclaim off the field, so the resbots have to do a lot of work, is in short the point here. Did they do enough? I don't think so, considering how much army was lost right there and how much there is still left in this field. One of those resbots up here to this very juicy cluster of units might have been more optimal. Vexy with some killer D-guns. I caught the tail end of that engagement, but it's a bunch of medium tanks. All the medium tanks, in fact, for the Maroon Commander, all go down simultaneously. What a brutal, brutal trade right there. Bunch of energy for thousands of metal worth of medium tanks. Never a trade that you're going to want to take. Shell Shockers and Wolverines all coming out of the labs here too and trying to blast away whatever they can, but frankly speaking, a successful defense right now from the green and blue commanders here. What a battle on this northern side. Just good old-fashioned multi-spam. We're going for a heavy laser towers, as many as we can, all firing away. Gauntlet here, or Agitator rather, needs to focus on the build power. Difficult to do so, though, with the radar jammer in place, making it tricky to figure out where exactly these units are. Size taking some serious damage. You have to be careful. Those commanders are tricky to repair, so it taking damage right there actually hurts a lot. The radar jammer is the primary target right now. As you can see, keeping that up and running is extremely important as well. Another agitator coming up and running. Okay, sure. Sure, because why not? When in doubt, 2 agitator better than 1. At the very least, if they manage to kill the agitator over here on the southern side, it will have been worth it. What a funky little battle going on back here. Cutting away to see the gigantic hovercraft run by going on the southern side. We have tons of rocket hovercraft pushing forward into the T2 production center here of the Pink Commander. It's been exposed, the forward T2 lab. And suddenly these units have a lot of work to do. A Fiend. Oh, Self-D. Oh, Self-D. Come on. Please. Please, I'm begging and screaming for the Self-D. I don't think we're going to get it. Not that it's necessary here. The Fiend is still doing wonderful work. Actually, probably more efficient to just keep it up and running and blowing all this apart. But still, though, that is the T2 laboratory, blown to smithereens right there by a whole bunch of crocodiles, the hovercraft tanks here. Not a bad trade whatsoever. A little bit of a sloppy micro on that Fiend. I think it probably could have killed all these rocket hovercraft pretty quickly. They're surprisingly effective right there. Looks like, meanwhile, the orange commander has died over here on the right-hand side. I saw the glimpse of a thermonuclear explosion on the right-hand side of the screen over here, and it looks like it's the mixed combination of multiple different forces. We have the green, cyan, blue, and purple forces all pushing forward at the same exact time, and it's more than enough to overwhelm the defenses here for the orange commander. At this point, what have we got? A single T2 constructor for the pink commander, so at the very least that T2 economy is semi-spared. T2 production is down, and that sucks, of course, but the fact that the T2 con still is up and running means we can rebuild pretty easily. T2 max can bring you back into the T2 game pretty quickly, so it's just a matter of getting these up and running. Build power is down right here, and we have idle constructors, so helping out any which way to get that build power back up and running is vital. Trying desperately to save the pink commander on the southern side. Every medium tank that can be spared, all hands on deck, being sent over in that direction. The dual agitators firing away here. And for what it is worth, the dual agitators are doing a great job. It is rare that the agitator gets the value that it needs to become efficient, but I think this is certainly one situation. Needs a little bit more micro right here. As the T2 lab is now up and running, we may as well transition into Sheldon, moving away from the agitators. No reason to keep these around. These inferior static defenses against what is a numerically superior and efficient unit, the mighty Sheldon. Agitators concerning me a little bit with their lack of micro right now. Aiming at targets that no longer exist. Forces pushing forward on the southern side. This is a scary situation right here. These Banshees have done a lot of work. I will say that between these Banshees there is 9 kills, which is impressive. Because a lot of those kills have been medium tanks, which is not stereotypically something that Banshees have ever been good against. Even at their most powerful, Banshees have never been good against medium tanks. It's just a fact of life, I suppose. Energy infrastructure issues right here for the pink commander, and the brown commander has all but been knocked out of the game. Trying to rebuild over here on this northern side, but very, very slowly clawing back into the game. Yeah, not having much success. Essentially, this entire area left to the effects of Poldarn, the green and pink commanders, reclaiming the corpses, and all this metal is available too. 8,000. What is it in total? Yeah, close to 9,000 metal tied up in all the wreckage on the southern side here. Obviously, he who claims the wreckage controls the Arrakis, or controls the Dune. My Dune. My Arrakis. My metal production. Double kill on the northern side here for the red commander. 2 commander corpses is a hefty sum of metal. 4,500 metal available here for the red commander. I know I'm focusing on these reclaim fields a lot, but it really is how the game of Beyond All Reason works. If you go for the reclaim, you win. It's I wish I could say there was more depth to it, but that really is the entirety of Beyond All Reason. If you reclaim the metal that's on the field, you have to be pretty negligent in order to not win your entire lane. This is a little cheeky little run by. We've got some termites climbing up and over the hills and around the side, popping up in the back line to, I guess, disrupt the reinforcement path. Not a bad idea. Certainly slows down a lot of these units that are coming upwards. Catching these units one by one or marching single file, obviously much more efficient than catching them in a big bundle. I just hope that we have more production coming up. Like, we have the T2 lab. Do we have a T2 con? Oh, no T2 con yet? Well, that's concerning. Wait, where's our... Oh, we do. Oh, it was handed over here. Oh, I see. We bought a T2 constructor from someone else. Okay, well, T2 constructor very slowly upgrading those T2 mexes right here. We need T2 units yesterday. We need these agitators gone. We need basically all the static defense eaten up. Let's just sum it all up right here. If we ate up every ounce of static defense right here, we'd be looking at 3,170 metal. Easily a full T2 army. We could build a mammoth and plenty of Sheldon to support it. And we can basically win this entire frontline push right here. Instead, Size has gone ahead and gone for that T2 economy. Rather, has gone for the T2 laboratory. I saw the T2 lab and assumed there would be a T2 economy, but I guess we're on even footing. Alright, well, ain't that just splendid right here? The big base is overwhelmed. Medium tanks ravaging the defenses. These Banshees, I always underestimate them, but when you need them most, they do the job. They're sort of like the least effective tool that still gets the job done, I guess is how I feel about them. Anyway, Constructor has been idle here for the last 15 minutes. Probably needs to get to work. Gigantic hovercraft raid incoming, but no air support here. It means that these tanks are going to have to blast these Banshees down the good old-fashioned way. And you know what? They're actually doing a great job of it. Oh man, alright, back to hating Banshees. Banshees blasted down by Gauss projectiles, just not something that you would ever expect a gunship to be subject to. But there you go. Medium tanks also trading phenomenally against the crocodiles here. It's just one of those things where crocodiles, because they're hovercraft, are subject to the whims of more stable units like ground-based units. See how 90% of those shots missed? This is the button to fix that. Hidden little button on the bottom of your screen right here. This is what fixes that, so that those units actually hit everything. A lot of Armada commanders don't know about that. Top 10 secrets that Cortex doesn't want you to know. Hit this button for a win. Unless you're fighting static defense towers. It's the one situation. And some certain slow-moving units like mammoths and sumos. But other than that, I better not see you in Gauss mode, fighting against a bunch of fast-moving units. Technically, it works just by sheer volume of fire. As you can see, the red army here is just gigantic. It's 7,000 metal worth of T2 units. This is a tremendous force. Obviously going to be quite capable of dealing with an individual flow of pawns, rather. But it is still slightly subpar, slightly less efficient. I'm nitpicking on the back of a very victorious steamrolling over here in the middle of the map. Tim Hooligan doing a great job of pushing forward. Now has to deal with the fact that there's a gigantic open pathway that the Cyan Commander is ready to cut off the Red Commander with. But these hounds should be perfect for blasting into the backlines here and doing a ton of damage, ravaging the backlines, at least of the Green Commander and hopefully of the rest of the team here as well. Medium tanks spared in order to try and clean this up. We do have bulls rushing out though, with a tremendous amount of AoE dealing phenomenal damage against the medium tanks. You can see just how efficient they are, blasting down medium tanks in four or five shots. One of, if not the most efficient medium tank killer in the T2 library. Maybe the Starlighter earns that title, but still. Very, very effective. The Brown Commander now in charge of this base for some reason. It's just being handed around all over the place. Everybody gets a chance to play whatever units they want in this game. Whole bunch of these roughnecks up in the air here, firing away at a bunch of the tanks. Sort of the T2 equivalent to the Banshee in all the same categories. Sort of as underwhelming. Certainly much more effective than the Banshee ever is, but you know what? 310 metal, they're not that expensive though. Yeah, I would say Roughneck are probably worth their cost. It's a tricky calculus because any gunship is going to have huge struggles, but at the end of the day, I think probably the Roughnecks have their value, at least in the fact that they're very difficult to shoot down. They do have quite a substantial sum of HP. Hounds moving forward right here, ready to assault the Seafoam base. A base that is largely unprepared for an assault, actually. Not to the discredit of the Seafoam Commander here, size. It's just an unfortunate situation to have 10 hounds popping up in your backline and suddenly blasting away at your laboratories and your constructors and all of that. Suddenly, things are looking quite a bit bleaker than they did 5 seconds ago. T2 now up and running on the high ground here. Sheldon finally marching forward as the Hot Pink Commander has managed to fully claim this base with the relieved pressure from those T2 units moving across the field. A little bit of self-destruct action to prevent the T2 units from falling into the hands here of the green team, of the blue players of the green, or the green players of the blue team. And I think this situation turns out phenomenally. Stupendously, one might even say. It's Fat Boy spam here for the Green Commander, interestingly. Fat Boy's not on my list of units I expected to see right here. They're relatively slow. They do a gigantic burst of damage. Nice bombing right there. Thermonuclear bomber deploys a warhead directly to the fusion reactor of the Cyan Commander. A duel of fusion reactors, actually, and pops both of them, sending an explosion through the entirety of the Cyan base, and you can see leaving the entire thing in a dramatic dead state. A dead cell, if you will. Orange forces moving forward right here. Still on T1 hovercraft is pretty funny. Hovercraft are tricky because they're sort of a 1.5, a T1.5 unit. And then they jump up to T3. That's where the other hovercraft is. So it's definitely a large jump you have to make between those two. There's definitely a lot of very efficient T2 forces that can take down hovercraft in a way such that you never make it to that T3 situation. Lightning tank's doing a great job here. Sometimes difficult to quantify how powerful the Jaguars are because a lot of their value comes from that chain effect. But it is substantial and it adds up really quickly considering that you're chipping off, say, 8% on every medium tank, but another 3% on every other medium tank. Means you actually remove quite a lot of HP from that army without even necessarily realizing it per shot. Sheldon easily dismantling this entire base over here. Things are looking quite good on the northern high ground. Build power coming up. Okay. Quick Mercury has got something planned. I wonder what it could be. Oh, one of those Jaguars. I love watching Jaguars work. This is what we need in hovercraft form. We need basically a Jaguar strapped on a big floating platform. 2 Jaguar heads firing away. I would say call it the Cerberus, but that's already been taken, so. Resbot's eating up this wreckage on the southern side instead of the red team getting on top of that wreckage. Nice stuff. Obviously, going to be a huge advantage for the purple commander, Poldarn. Using that metal and a whole bunch of T2 forces and hopefully a scaling in the backline. Doesn't look like it. Advanced solars or fusion reactors or even advanced fusion reactors. Anything to spend the metal. Here we go. Yeah, the purple commander, Massacre, has gone ahead and gone to a fusion reactor. Lovely stuff. Stabilizing that energy production quite nicely here and going to allow for quite a lot of E conversion as well. Means that suddenly the Lavender commander, the Lavender economy in total is going to look quite nice. Whole bunch of those Roughnecks up in the air here as well. Cool to see. Fighters doing a decent job of sweeping the air, though. Too many, cries the Orange Commander, but actually the Sheldon Ball is significant. Very difficult to push into that Sheldon Ball, especially if we have Grunt or Tick Spam moving out in front, too. The Sheldon are really, really difficult to push into. So expensive. Oh, this might be the connection of the game. Boom, boom, boom. 3 big shots sneezed out of the noses of all 3 of these Fat Boy here. Loads of AoE splash damage on those means that those Fat Boys connect in a big way here. Ooh, a little bit of miss micro from the Green Commander at the last second. Suddenly the Red Forces move forward. As far as static defenses go, this is looking phenomenal. We've got a whole bunch of beamer turrets up and running. We've got the T2 lab nearly rebuilt. Those hounds are not quite done yet, and they're headed directly towards the build power back here of Harvman, who is in desperate need of some sort of answer to all this. I think probably the best answer would be abductors, maybe a nuclear bomber. Anything to blow these up, but I really don't think the Roughneck, the single Roughneck, is going to be able to do it, especially now with Archangels in the mix, now able to fire away at the gunships in the air. Just like that, the T2 commander, the T2 air commander has gone down. The build power anyways, and Hardman's comm is in critical danger here as well. 1 or 2 more volleys. Boom goes the powder blue. T2 lab in a lot of danger. Oh, I'm gonna get it. Barely killing the laboratory right there. Very barely. Not prioritizing the build power. A risky venture. Wow. Still building the build power up here and building a big economy on the back of it as well. Not bad. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your team is take a second off the front lines and just build your money up. Get your money up, not your funny up. It's the motto of Beyond All Reason. And if you do, you'll start pumping out units that are much more useful to your team. Titans, Cargonets, Razorbacks, Vanguards and Catapults, and of course Juggernauts on top of all of that. The southern side left unclaimed, actually. So it's a bummer to have lost these commanders on the southern side that are no longer with us. But it's better that it's not actually claimed right here by the purple and lavender commanders. It's actually a huge benefit. Oh, Fiends accidentally stumbling on a commander over here. Okay. Oh, please. Please kill the commander. This is a little bit painful. Yikes. Okay. I'm gonna sit here and let us watch all this. We'll just cringe together. This is what I signed up for. This is what Beyond All Reason is all about. 4 units that absolutely could have killed this commander in about 3 seconds, all going down because they ran out of APM. And suddenly the orange commander, Arcazar, Probably unaware entirely of what actually happened right there. Probably has absolutely no clue that there was the opportunity to kill the commander right there. Wondering how on earth he scouted this area down here. What was over here? Was there a wreckage over here or something? Can't remember. That is too good. Obviously not picking on the orange commander, just using it as a point to highlight. Spybot. Spybot. Oh, Spybot is revealed. Oh no! Spybot waiting for the perfect detonation and passing up on a decent one. Doesn't detonate and won't paralyze a bunch of these hounds. Unfortunately, denying the opportunity that all these fast-moving units that the blue commander had built up. Uh-oh. You know what time it is. From on high, it looks like the long-range plasma cannon, the Basilisk, is now raining down terror. Pew! All the way down into the blue base. Let me zoom all the way out here and show you just really quickly. This is the attack range. It's this red circle right here on the southern side of the map. Literally every single base on this map except for the bottom two. It's ridiculous how far these long-range plasma cannons can actually reach when they're put on a high enough high ground. That is hilarious. I love this place so much. This is tremendous. Hopefully we go for more. Yeah, there we go. Gonna build a couple more Basilisk cannons. This army is just waiting. Hoping and praying and waiting and stalling. Bunch of ticks running by over on this side. And it looks like T3 are finally hitting the field here for the red commander. Nice. It is at this point in the game you must consider how you're going to try and bring yourself back, because the red team has a significant advantage for the longest part of this game. So much so that I'm actually going to go ahead and speed things up. The blue team with a gigantic run-by path available on the southern side through this backline, but not taking advantage of any of it. We've got loads and loads of units sitting here staring at the enemy and not necessarily willing to do basically anything about it. Sharpshooter firing away at the Razorback here, but the Razorback firing back. I'm bringing Razorback. What? Does go down here eventually. The T1 unit's overwhelming all these T2, but the fusion reactor is popped here from the LRPC shots, and suddenly it means that the Cyan base is basically out of power. Razorback doing a great job of cleaning up the remainder of those forces here. A bit of a shame to lose on those T2. Hey, some action on this side of the map. It looks like the Lavender and the Purple commanders are finally deciding to push forward. Slowly but surely, firing into the empty space here. Eventually, the Fat Boy will bring down the Juggernaut, but those Bulls are pretty sturdy and actually strong enough to contend even against those Fat Boys, as fat as they are. Wow. That's a lot of anti-air, though. If there's one thing that won't be happening today, it's any kind of airplay. Still, though, the Bulls get those Sharpshooters hurts. The Sharpshooters are meant to destroy the Bulls, and instead they became corpses under the Bulls' whim. Low power right here for the Lavender Commander means none of these units are effective. The Welder's just sitting and staring. What a melee battle between that orange tank right there. What a melee battle. Basilisk firing away here into the distance. Pew, pew, pew. A little 3-round burst directly into the backline of the blue players. Oh my goodness, this is so funny. Watching those LRPCs actually be able to shoot things into the distance is phenomenal. Really, really spectacular. Finally firing away with a whole bunch of Sheldon that were at one point used defensively and are now streaming across, being utilized offensively here behind the grunt spam. The LRPC takes out the T3 lap. Nicely done. Those LRPCs fire a wide barrage of shots, but at the very least, the damage... Oh my goodness, what a juicy connection right there. Those blue units never saw it coming. A decent little swarm of blue units blasted to smithereens by an LRPC from halfway across the known universe. That might be maybe the juiciest LRPC shot I've ever seen. Against units, that is, of course. T3 moving in, and I think it's pretty obvious at this point that the red team has secured an overwhelming advantage. We'll go ahead and speed our way through the ends of this as we watch the red Razorbacks march directly into the green production center with little to no resistance, because at this point the ecos have been crumbled. The resign vote is called, the blue team casts their votes and indeed throws in the towel. The red team claiming victory today with overwhelming pressure, aggression, and decent utilization of more of their tools of war, putting them to use on the field rather than using them a little bit more statically. And I think ultimately that's the reason why they were able to claim the victory in this game, beyond all reason. Thanks a ton for watching, and if you did enjoy, of course, you're more than welcome to join the Discord, which is always linked down below in the description section, and I hope you had a wonderful time. I know I sure did, and I hope to see you in the very next cast of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody, and have a phenomenal rest of your day. I know I've used that word a lot today.